Okay, so this is the beginning of part 2. So our first part is alleles. So an allele is different forms of a gene. So for example, again, whatever trait that we're talking about, let's just for example use the widow's peak and the non-widow's peak. Every single trait that you have two genes from that. One from your mom, one from your dad. No matter whichever one shows up, you have two. So maybe your dad has a widow's peak and your mom doesn't, and you don't have a widow's peak. Your gene from your parent that does have a widow's peak is still in your body. It just doesn't show up. So the way that we write alleles is we use letters. So we always have two letters when we're writing alleles. So going back to the flowers, if I were going to write an allele, this is what it would look like. So before you can write an allele, you always need some sort of key to tell you what the letter stands for and what a capital letter and a lowercase letter stands for. So in this one, A is standing for the color of the flower. So the color of the flower is either purple or white. In this case, we said purple is the dominant trait because it's stronger. It's more likely to show up. So it's the capital letter. And the white is the recessive gene because it's weaker. It's more likely to be hidden. So we show it with a lowercase a. So same letter, just one's big, one's small. So this is what an allele looks like. AA is an allele. Okay, so this just means that for this particular flower, its mom gave it a purple gene and its dad also gave it a purple gene. So it doesn't have any white genes. On this white flower, its mom and its dad gave it white genes, so it doesn't have any purple genes. And then on this purple flower, let's say its mom gave it a purple gene and its dad gave it a white gene. So you can see it ended up being purple. It still has a white gene. We just don't see it because it's a recessive gene. So it's covered up and hidden by the dominant gene. So here are a few examples of more alleles. So if we were going to write an allele for hair, you might have long hair or short hair. And so we might represent it with a B and a lowercase b. So in this case, the capital B is dominant. It's more likely to occur. And the lowercase is recessive. It's more likely to be hidden. So you could get two dominant traits from your parents. One of your parents could give you a dominant trait and one could give you a recessive trait, or they both could give you recessive traits. In this case, if you had two big B's, you would have long hair. If you had a big B and a little b, that doesn't mean you have medium hair. That means that you have long hair, because whichever trait is stronger, so in this case, the big B, or long hair, is stronger, that's the one that shows up. So you would have long hair. And then on this one, you would have short hair because that's the only two traits that you have. Okay, so our next allele example is with tall and short. So the dominant trait is tall, the recessive trait is short. So this one means both of your parents gave you a tall gene. This one means one of your parents gave you a tall, one gave you a short. So you would show, you would be tall even though you have a short gene or trait. And then here you would be short because both of your parents gave you a short gene. Okay, more alleles. Let's say C stood for black hair and lowercase c stood for blonde hair. Black is the recessive trait. It's stronger, it's more likely to show up. Lowercase c is recessive. It's less likely to show up. It's weaker, it's easier to hide. So you could, again, end up with two capitals, which would give you black hair, a capital and a lowercase, which would also give you black hair, or two lowercases, which is the only way that you could end up with blonde hair. Okay, our next word is phenotype. So pheno starts with a P, actually a PH. And so the way that you can remember what phenotype stands for is it's your physical appearance. They both start with PH. So phenotype is your physical appearance. So for example, let's say your allele was 2 lowercase b's. And we know that a big B stands for brown eyes because brown eyes are more dominant. And then a lowercase b stands for blue eyes because blue eyes are recessive or the weaker gene. So if you ended up with this allele, 2 lowercase b's, your phenotype would be blue eyes because blue eyes is your physical appearance. Now let's say your allele was a capital B and a lowercase b. So you have the blue-eyed gene, but it's not going to be what shows up. So even though your allele is big B, little b, your phenotype would be brown eyes. And then if you had 2 big B's, of course, your phenotype would also be brown eyes. Genotype is your genes that you have. So your genotype here is the allele, the lowercase bb. Or in this case, with the brown-eyed person, it could be capital B, lowercase b, or they could have 2 capital B's. So again, your genotype is the actual genes, whereas your phenotype is what we see. It's your physical appearance. Next word is homozygous, and the prefix homo means same. Hopefully we are mature enough to think and talk about this, but the way that I remember what this prefix means is with homosexuals, we know that that is 2 people that have the same gender. So homozygous is when you have 2 alleles that are the same or have the same trait. So for example, this is homozygous because they're both lowercase t's. This is homozygous because they're both capital T's. This is homozygous because they're both capital B's, and this one's homozygous because they're both lowercase b's. So if the 2 letters in your allele are exactly the same, meaning that they're the same letter and they're either both uppercase or both lowercase, then that makes them homozygous. Heterozygous. Heter means different, and you'll have to excuse right here. I have 2 eyes. I should just have 1. But you can remember this by heterosexuals. Heterosexuals are when you like the different gender. So a heterozygous organism is one that has different traits. So notice the letters are the same, but one's capitalized and one's lowercase. That's heterozygous. And then last but not least, our last word is hybrid. A hybrid, I always think of dogs when I hear this word, because when we're talking about dogs and you hear that someone has a purebred dog, it means that their traits they have are homozygous, meaning that their mom and their dad are the exact same breed. So homozygous, they have, again, the exact same, same. Whereas with a heterozygous dog, we call that hybrids. So, for example, these first 2, this is a purebred Pomeranian. This is a purebred Yorkie. And if they made little puppy babies, then the puppy baby would be a hybrid because it has a Pomeranian and a Yorkie mixed with it. So it would be heterozygous, which just another word that you're going to hear a lot when we're talking about all these things with genes and traits is hybrid. So you just need to know that it means the same thing as heterozygous. Okay? So this ends this video. You can go ahead and check the board to see what to do next.